Hello and welcome back to another episode of MC Airsoft. My name is Mark, and today we're going to be discussing CQB with long guns. Now, first we need to discuss what am I just calling a long gun in this video, right? To some people, if you're looking at like speed QB or something, maybe a 10-inch barrel is a long gun. Yeah. If you're used to playing a sniper kind of role with the bolt action, long guns have a different connotation, so for purposes of this discussion, we're going to call a long gun basically anything this length or longer. Now this is a 11.5-inch barrel with the Surefire style 4-prong flash hider on there, and a buttstock that, while it does adjust, does not go away like something like this. Okay. Now we're also going to be calling this long gun, assuming it has a full-length stock. Really, what we're going to be discussing applies cross-platform, right? So, the second thing we're going to be discussing is what are we calling CQB? Now, we're mostly going to be discussing CQB as something close to a house, or something close to an apartment building, or something close to an office building with cubicles and stuff, or a warehouse with a lot of cover in style or in size. I feel like a lot of paintball fields and a lot of CQB fields for Airsoft kind of ignore that. They're this one room, unsupported, or one room with a small hallway kind of thing. And there's a lot of cover and concealment that might not be there in a more realistic environment. Personally, I find things that are actually built to replicate houses or other such structures a lot more interesting, but they also change the dynamic of how you can move. Because if you look at an average house, they're not really laid out for gameplay, right? It shouldn't be a surprise there. If you look at an average house, they're laid out in a way that it forces you to maneuver in a certain way. There maybe isn't as much cover. It might not have an accessible back door. There might only be one point of entry unless you're breaking windows. And you're dealing with stairs, you're dealing with second, third, fourth floors, depending on what kind of environment you're in, things of that nature. So we're not talking about like speed QB or speedball kind of environments. We're talking about more in the realm of industrial or residential buildings, right? So to aid that, we got our fake wall or door here. And we're not talking so much about maybe a CQB kind of length engagement, but outdoors, maybe in the woods, forested areas, like a heavily forested area. Yes, you might be engaging in a closer range, but there's different considerations. So that's maybe a different video for a different time, or fighting in and around bushes or streets. Although some of these ideas can work for streets and things like that, working in and around cars, sure. But mostly what we're talking about are the military bases that host milsim games, or other such abandoned buildings, or purpose-made mount towns that replicate buildings, things of that nature. The speed QB side, nothing against them, but there's different considerations, and frankly, I've never done it. I'm not really willing to speak too much on that. So that's kind of what a long gun is, what CQB is for parameters of this video. Now, why? Right, so if your local field, the one you play at 99% of the time is a CQB field, that's great, but you probably build a airsoft gun to kind of work in and around those structures. Right now, again, this isn't very long, but if I'm playing only CQB all day every day, that I go play airsoft, and it is maybe more in that like paintball kind of environment, speedball, speed QB kind of environment. I'm going to build something probably smaller, something maybe a pistol, right? But it's going to look different, right? If I'm playing in mount towns primarily, maybe I move towards a honey badger kind of gun, a PDW, a shorter stock, maybe a shorter barrel. But if I know the environment I'm going to be playing in most of the time, I'm going to spend the money and I'm going to get something suited to that environment to, one, yes, be more competitive, but two, give me the best experience playing there, right? No one likes to lose. Yes, you might not be there to win, but you're there to win. You're there to have fun, right? No one has fun fighting their gear, right? So, some considerations. Unless you're proving a point, you're LARPing as a World War I reenactor at one of these games. Then sure, whatever floats your goat. But so something like this is a well-balanced gun. It is a long enough barrel, high enough FPS in order to reach out a decent length. It's not going to compete with DMRs and sniper rifles, but I'm not going to be as outgunned as I could be either. It's also going to keep up with most of the other rifles on the field if we're out in open area. And if I have to go into CQB, I can still maneuver around walls. I can still switch shoulders. It's still a light gun. I can do work in buildings with something this small. It's perfectly adequate for that. So, and again, if I'm going into that environment, maybe I bring something even smaller. But yeah, so that's kind of the parameters. Now, why would you do CQB with a long gun? Well, one, maybe you have a shotgun. Maybe that's your CQB gun, right? And yes, we are talking about shotguns in terms of long guns for the most part. There are probably shorter ones. In fact, I know there's shorter ones, but they're in that long gun category, especially the full-size shotguns. But they're kind of in the same realm to me. But why would you be doing CQB with a long gun? There's a couple reasons. One is that maybe it's not your local field, right? I mostly play within 30-minute drive of where I am, where I live. But when I want to change pace, maybe I'm trying to get a game on a different day or whatever. Maybe I'm trying to test out gear. I'm going to an event, so I want to make sure everything works. Whatever the case is, maybe I drive up to Vegas and I play there. Great. Well, they're mostly paintball fields. I don't really play on paintball fields, but they're mostly, that kind of field. And so if I'm showing up with something that long or something, hopefully not, but something this long, right? Now, yes, this is shooting over the minimum, but we'll get to that later. But if I'm trying to do CQB with this, which I have done it is very possible. But if I don't know the considerations, know what I'm getting myself into, I might be heavily disadvantaged, right? Because this is a long gun. For reference, it is right here. I'm 6 foot tall. It's probably at least a 3 foot gun, right? Maybe a little bit longer. It's got about an 18-inch barrel. Scope. It's set up for long range. This is not a CQB gun, especially now that it's got an FPS upgrade. But maybe you bought that M16, AK, whatever the case is. Maybe you bought it because it was cheaper, or you like the look of it, you like the feel of it. But there's a CQB field, you don't want to buy a second gun, okay? That might be one reason why you're doing it. Another reason is maybe you're at a much larger field or a milsim kind of environment where you're spending times in the woods or the open areas, but you might have to go into a city, go do some work there, and then move back out of the city and still work out in that environment. So you need a multi-purpose or general purpose rifle, right? So something like the Mark 18, debatably the Mark 12 if you set it up right. But yeah, so you're taking whatever you have on you and you're moving in and around the forest, that's great, but then it goes into an urban area or an urban style area, right? So you're going to need to still be able to push that. You can't really say, hey guys, stop the assault, everyone hold here. I have to get into a car or whatever, or run, and depending on the distance, back to my pack to grab my CQB gun, and then I'll be back, wait for me kind of thing. Now, maybe that can work in some situations, but I wouldn't count on it, especially if you're on any kind of time sensitive kind of mission, whatever you want to call it. So, or game. So that's another consideration, right? You want a general purpose gun, or you're going to be out in the woods for the most part. You set it up for the woods, but you still want to be able to do CQB with it. And maybe you don't have a pistol, right? Because that is, at least in Airsoft, a lot of the problems with pistols in real life are negated because you don't have recoil in Airsoft, and you aren't dealing with the ranges of real guns, right? So that's kind of why. It's either because financial or because mission dependent. You ended up in a building with a long gun. Not the best situation, but you're there. Next thing, like I said, there's FPS restrictions. Okay, so you can't be doing CQB with a gun that is too hot for inside buildings, right? If I can look at a normal house and I know I'm probably getting in engagements that are closer than 25 feet, I better have a pistol, right? Or 50 feet or 75 feet, whatever you're doing. If you're running a DMR, sure, sling it, put it on your back, take it up to the roof, go to work, whatever you need to do, but have a pistol. If you're even concerned about engagement distances and you have a DMR or a bolt action, have a pistol. Okay. Now, personally, I always carry a pistol because when I first started playing, electric guns weren't as reliable as they are now. There really wasn't a day I would go out that I didn't have some kind of malfunction. And so I would have a pistol, and it's a oh crap gun, right? But nowadays, a lot of people aren't running pistols, or they're running pistols as primaries. I get it, but if you're questionable on the FPS limit that it's over that 0 foot engagement distance. Now I understand some fields are going to say like everything has a minimum 10 foot. Use your bang rules, whatever you got to do. But I really can't recommend going too hot with CQB guns because one, you might get kicked off the field if you're over a certain FPS and you shoot someone under a certain amount of feet. That's not good. Two, it's really bad fields, right? Especially if it's a smaller group on a CQB field or something, and you can shoot 399 with a 0 foot engagement distance. Okay, and I pop this corner, I present my rifle, right? I pop this corner, I present my rifle, I'm not blind firing or anything like that. I come around this corner correctly, I present a target to my opponent, which is kind of the working definition of not blind firing, and they're 2 feet away from me. Now, personally, I might say bang, even if there's not bang rules, or I might let them know, hey, you're dead, bud. Like, just stop. But then, if they turn to shoot or something like that, obviously they're getting BBs. But I'm probably going to give them that chance, right? And now if there's a lot of them, maybe you don't, right? Because a lot of fields have a pseudo cooldown period for bang kills or whatever you want to call them. It's a touchy area, but what I'm saying is for the health of the community, you don't want to be mag dumping into someone who's 2 feet away, even if the rules allow it, generally speaking. Now, so the next thing we're going to be talking about is high port versus low port. So the first thing we got to discuss with this is be comfortable right side or left side, right? You got to be able to shoot both sides if you're doing any kind of CQB work. Okay, now realistically, we're going to be mostly discussing longer guns. So let me grab one of those. And yes, this is, again, I wouldn't want to go in buildings with this, number one. Number two, it is shooting too hot to go into buildings for most fields, at least in the US. So that is a consideration to make. But as an example, we're going to be using this, again, 18 or so inch barrel, about 20 from the front of the receiver to the end of the comp there. So, or muzzle brake, whatever we're going to call this, have a full stock. So yeah, but we'll touch on slings in a minute, but yes, I want to shoot left-handed for the most part with rifles because I'm left-eye dominant, okay? But especially when we're getting into CQB, I got to be able to switch sides. I got to be able to work everything just as well with my right hand, whether that's my reloads, bolt release if you're doing gas or something like that, or last round hold open kind of things. Whatever the case is, I got to be able to do it right and left-handed. Now, if you're not as comfortable, or you're not putting in the kind of training in order to do all your reloads with your offhand, okay, you can, of course, pop it back over. Okay, you can pop it back over and come down, do your work, whatever you need to do. Okay, sure, you can, but it's better if you can just do it both ways. Okay, especially if you're already inconvenienced with a long gun. So high port versus low port, some considerations for that. And now, of course, we can talk real steel, but this is an airsoft channel. So high port versus low port, what I mean by that is high port barrel up, low port barrel down, right? And sure, you can have it in your shoulder ready to go. It's more of a low ready, so that's not really what we're talking about. We're talking about displacing the stock from your shoulder, either above which tilts your barrel down, which is a low port or high port. Okay, so below the shoulder, kind of chicken wing, and you're bringing your barrel up. Now, high port is, generally speaking, more ergonomic. As far as I'm concerned, depending on your version of low port, once you actually get to an area where you're close into walls, close into doors, you're not going to be doing this low port that you see on Instagram, where I can pop it off safe, pull real quick. I'm not going to be coming from here, because this means I'm way back here and I might as well be on the gun already, right? If I'm already here, might as well be on the gun. Okay, so we're talking a practical low port, something like this, okay? Where we're tucked in, we've got the barrel back, I'm holding it where I normally would, so I can punch out and get on the gun as fast as possible. But we're not talking this kind of, oh yeah, this is low port. No, it's not. Okay, this isn't low port, because if I have that kind of space, might as well get on the gun anyway. Okay. Now, for high port, same thing. We're not high port here. This isn't high port. This is, World War II kind of shooting, right? Or machine gun shooting. It's not, this isn't high port, right? Because if I have the room to do this, I might as well do this, okay? Again, you can see that if I'm already here, okay, that's about how close I can get, and that's touching the, I had a problem there, technical issues. So I'm almost touching the door already. I might as well just lean back a bit and bring it up to shoulder. So if I have the room to shoulder, I'm going to do it, okay? And everyone should, right? If you have the room to properly manipulate your gun, do it. Now there is some debate on supination versus pronation, what you should do, okay? Supination versus pronation, or pronation. C-clamps and airsoft don't really make sense to me, because it's not giving me anything. I'm not controlling recoil or anything. You do you, but whatever. Supination, turning over the hand, using the tricep to bring it up, okay? It might be a little bit quicker, might not. I think if you were trained in it, it's going to be faster, okay? You can also probably hold it there longer, okay? I know from Marine Corps qualification shooting, turning over your hand for some of the positions, which are more Olympic style, in all honesty, they're not really meant for shooting. I can hold this all day. If I need to provide overwatch for an area, this is a much more stable shooting position than this, okay? Or holding position, or whatever you want to call it. So it comes down to how you're trained. Try it both ways, see what works. Try it enough to actually have an opinion on it, rather than just being able to reference something. So for a gun like this, I'm actually going to be gripping here, because I feel personally like I can whip that barrel around quicker, okay? And I'm going to be grabbing in supination, right? Because I need as much muscle behind it as possible in order to pop it up, right? So moving around this door, high port versus low port, I believe I have a video about this already in more detail, but just brief overview of it. Should you go from high port to low port, or high port or low port? Personally, it's going to depend on what you're doing, right? If I am in a stack, which I don't want to be in a stack, but if I'm in a stack, doing stack and flow, kind of World War II stuff, I might go high port, right? Because I don't want to be pointing at the guy in front of me, right? More important with real steel, but even with airsoft, you know, some fields, friendly fire counts, even if it doesn't, you're shooting your buddy in the back of the leg, might have some issues. I might go high port if I'm with a buddy. Now, what I'm going to be doing, if I'm stacking behind them for whatever dumb reason, because this isn't World War II, if I'm stacking behind them, okay, there are some reasons to stack and flow, I get it, but for airsoft, not applicable. So if I'm stacked behind them, I want my rifle barrel as low as possible. So say about here's the shoulder, here's the top of their head. I'm going to have their barrel right above their headline, so I can get it down and in as quick as possible. Because frankly, if I'm in a stack, I got room, because we got room for multiple people, right? So I'm ready to go, and then this is where we're starting to come down and into that range. Now, I still have it nice and tucked. I'm not here, right? I have it nice and tucked. I have it vertical. I'm not taking up a whole lot of distance, okay? And I can stack and flow into a room fairly competently. So that's really the main reason you're gonna do high port. Now, the other reason might be if you're looking at a windowsill or something, looking out a windowsill, in a windowsill, you might go high port, because if you're high port, you can drop right on the other side of that windowsill and come around, okay? And it's a much quicker action. Versus high port, you might have to bring it up and over the windowsill and start shooting. Some considerations. But for most of the work that we're going to do in CQB, we're going to be coming from low port. Okay. Now, another good reason to come from high port is that, you know, for military or police applications, you can obviously muzzle strike. And if I can come here and muzzle strike and then get on the trigger, great. We're not doing that. It's airsoft. Okay. The reason that we're favoring low port is, yes, there's a hop up. It's going to send it all wonky, send the BB all wonky at long range. If I start to shoot sideways, that is something to remember. However, within 20, 30 feet, within a room, I can still put rounds on target from here. So if I am low port, right? If I'm low port, this feels awkward right-handed, but and coming around this door, I can start popping off rounds as soon as I breach that, right? I can bring it back way over my shoulder, okay, and take up as little room as possible. And if they're close enough, as soon as I breach here, I can start shooting if they're close enough. Now, again, maybe you don't want to do that, but you can start shooting from there. And yes, you can shoot a real AR from here as well. For anyone concerned with that, oh, then my immersions, nah, I don't care. And yes, you can even shoot an AR one-handed. Plenty of videos online about that. But so I can start shooting from here as I start breaching this this plane. And that's the main reason we're going to be doing that. In my opinion, it's more beneficial than high port, is because as soon as I breach this plane, I can start shooting. and then I can keep shooting and keep shooting while I get on target. So I can lay down maybe my own suppressing fire, maybe maybe I am close enough that I can just instinctively aim where they're at, and I can even roll if I need to make a longer shot. Maybe it's 100 feet. I turn the corner onto a hallway, or I'm breaching outside of a building, like I'm getting out of the building or something of that nature. I can come from this high port, okay, and I can roll it around, getting that level to make the hop up work again. And I can start coming around this corner and take longer shots if I need to. Now, I'm not really going to be doing that, generally speaking, so I'm going to be right here. I'm kind of eating my scope at this point, but I can come up as quick as I want, right? I can get real tight in, okay? Using the counterbalance of the stock with a battery in it is great. And I have a lot of torque, and I only have to cover this amount of distance. Now, problem is, this gun, at least in my house, because yes, don't act like you don't clear your house. This gun is too long to fit in a lot of, in the main hallway in my house, right? So I have to keep it canted, right? I can't hold it like this. I have to keep it canted. I have to get right up here on the door or wall or whatever. And then coming around, I can start shooting, okay? I can start shooting and then start going to work, doing what I need to do, okay? So high port versus low port, it's kind of a consideration there. Now again, I did another video on high port versus low port, so I don't want to beat a dead horse too much. Next thing is going to be slings, okay? So this is a 1 point, it's it was the first 1 point available from Gunfather Milsim. He makes some great slings. He's a SWAT instructor and longtime airsoft player. Knows what he's talking about. Not that playing airsoft is a qualification, but whatever. So this is a fantastic sling at a great price point. My other sling that I normally run is this one, which is older than most airsoft players, and it's made by Spectre. Doesn't really matter. It's a wide strap. It got bungee on both sides, which is worn out. You can tell how old it is, but it's a good option. But this one trigger snaps right onto the QD point. Great. Ignoring 3 points. So we're not going to discuss 3 points. They're dead and they should stay dead. 2 points. Run it as a 1 point. Take it off your body. Sling it around your neck. Whatever you need to do, you need to get it out of the way, right? Because here I can, as long as my sling point doesn't get caught on my vest, I can bump shoulders if I need to. I can come around, so switching sides if I need to. I can do whatever I need to, and then if I really need to transition to my pistol quick, fast, and in a hurry, I can. Yes, it's gonna hit you in the nuts. I get that, okay? If you have your rifle set up properly, it's not going to. And also you can keep it upright if you need to. You can also just trace with your hand to your pocket, okay? And then go to work on your pistol. Now I'm cross dominant, so I'm going to be drawing with my right on my pistol. So I'm going to be transitioning here. It's a little bit easier for me. But if you're going to your holster anyway, you can transition to that side, go to your holster and go. Or you can take it in your dominant hand, or non-dominant hand, sorry. You can take it in your non-dominant hand, transition over, and draw your pistol. Great. it's not hitting me anywhere. If your rifle is doing things that you don't want it to do, you're doing something wrong. 2 points are great, but as you're going into the building, or frankly, even going into an urban area, start to loosen everything up that you need to loosen, tighten what you need to tighten, get it ready for that kind of situation, CQB stuff, before you go into a building, right? If you want to use your pistol instead of your rifle for CQB and you have a 2 point, go ahead and sling that, pull out your pistol, go to work inside the building, and then as you're exiting the building, you can reholster, bring out the rifle. Great. If you have a 2 point that like, oh, it does this fancy slidey thingy and it makes it tighter or looser, that's great. Do that before you go into the building. You don't want to be like trying to clear, especially with a long gun, you're already inconvenienced, and then popping a corner, see someone rip that slide, and then start going to work. It doesn't make sense. So do all your adjustments before you go in. 2 points are great. They have their point, but for most of Airsoft, not really that useful. I prefer my 1 point still. Yeah, they're a little bit outdated, but whatever, we'll go with it. Now, the last thing we're going to cover is sights. Okay, for CQB, irons are dead, right? I have my irons on here, or I guess polymers on here. Okay, I have my irons on here in case my battery dies. I don't want to use the irons. They're slower, they're debatably less accurate for Airsoft for 2 reasons. One, they don't normally have the smaller peep sights on them that real ones have. And 2, I can't, at longer ranges, track where my BBs are going. At shorter ranges, it's slower if I'm actually using the sights. You have to bring it up to the correct position, find your front sight, find your rear sight, line up the front sight in the rear sight, and then start shooting, and then you can't track your BBs. Yeah, can you do it quick? Sure, I can find it reliably, fairly quick. Never going to be as quick as a red dot. The next step up, so for solely CQB, red dots are great. And frankly, anything in Airsoft ranges is going to be kind of in that CQB range. For real steel, red dots are great. I just need to put the red dot on the target. I'm ready to go. Simple. If you want to be a little bit more precise, rifle scopes, they're good, not for Airsoft. LPVOs, they're good for some things. They're better for real steel. I don't really like them for Airsoft because they're not great at either one. And frankly, with Airsoft, all you need is a red dot anyway. LPVOs, a good quality LPVO with low parallax on the one setting, great. Because then I can just use it like a red dot. I can start shooting, fantastic. And then if I need to positively ID a target, or I need to see where I'm impacting, maybe I had a barrel shift, maybe I swapped BB weights or something, great. So, yeah. Red dots, fantastic. LPVOs, if you get a good one, real good. Rifle scopes, not good. Irons, not good for CQB. Now, red dots with magnifiers, they're good. I put them in the same boat as an LPVO. If you get a good one, great. If you don't get a good one, save the money, get a red dot. So, yeah. If anyone has any questions, comments, concerns, go ahead and put them down in the comments. I will address them either in the comments or in a later video. And until next time, stay safe and stay hydrated.